Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. Investors continue to fly high this morning on possible de-escalation of tariff talks and a pullback on rhetoric of Powell being fired. All three major indices closed higher yesterday after a shift in sentiment around a China trade war and stability at the Fed. The Dow soared more than 1,000 points, or 2.66%. The S&P 500 jumped 129 points, or more than 2.5%. The Nasdaq climbed 429 points, or about 2.75%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. How are you? I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 2.27% this morning. That's a big move, especially after yesterday's strong leg higher. I mean, President Trump did come out here and he did say that he has no plans to remove Fed Chairman Jerome Powell from his position. This is a big turnaround from what he was saying, just recently. But he also indicated that, his 145% tariffs on China will be coming down. He said it's going to come down substantially. Interesting. We don't know what there is. But I see news reports out there that President Trump and Chinese President Xi are scheduled to kind of meet in early May. We're going to have to wait to see if we get more information on that. But that's when you could expect those tariffs to really drop. Yesterday we also got those comments from Treasury Secretary Bessent, where and they were also bullish, as he indicated his belief that a trade deal with China can be reached. Now, there are trade deals that are close to being announced. India and Japan are said to be close to be announced very shortly. This is going to be more propaganda than anything else. I mean, it's going to be, very sensationalized. But if you look at the details of this report, it's going to be light. It's going to be very broad in scope and very light on the details. That's what you see with Trump's trade deals. There's the specifics just aren't there. And they're always like, we're going to deal with the specifics down the line. Down the line never comes. So I'm worried about that. But, if he lowers the tariffs, that's all to Japan and India. That's going to be a benefit for the markets. Later today, President Trump is expected to sign an executive order on reducing the cost of prescription drugs, and also, he's going to be covering things like government efficiency and regulatory reforms. So the lowering of prescription drugs could create some weakness this afternoon in some of the drug stocks. You got to in the pharmacy benefit companies. What do we have this morning? We got the flash PMI data that's set to be released. Remember, this is the first economic data on manufacturing and services that will come out since the tariffs went into place. So these are going to be important. They come out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And later this afternoon, we get the Fed's Beigh book. That could be interesting. What else? The EU regulators, they fined Apple and Meta for violations on its Digital Markets Act. Not good. In terms of earnings, hey, this afternoon after the bell, you got earnings from IBM, ServiceNow, Chipotle, Discover, and others. So, we got a lot of good earnings coming out after the bell today. And then, we're turning our attention to the global markets to see what's happening overseas. And we are seeing some positive action. I mean, you look at the DAX, it's up 2.3% or 489 points. I mean, the global trade news and positive corporate earnings growth is really, benefiting that index. FTSE also up 1.16% or 96 points. Seen positive action in pharma and oil stocks. FTSE's up, and then the CAC is up 144 points. That's about 2%. Hey, and no surprise, luxury stocks are showing strong gains this morning. Last night in Asia, we did see some, mostly positive action. I mean, the Nikkei jumped 648 points. That's 1.89%. Positive action in electronics, autos, financial stocks. Hong Kong, moved higher by, 2.37%. That's 510 points. Again, positive action, autos and tech stocks. China, on the other hand, fell 0.1%. The market in China, listen, they got that Politburo meeting going on, and that April Politburo meeting is really going to be, key because the market is waiting on stimulus action. But the Chinese Shanghai market has been rallying almost every day for the last, 10 sessions. So a little weakness ahead of a big announcement on possible stimulus shouldn't be considered negative at this point in time. Then we're taking a look at oil, and oil is trading lower this morning. It was higher. Oil was higher by 1%. Now it's trading lower. You got WTI at $63.19. You got Brent at $66.89. You look at yesterday oil jumped because, of new sanctions that were put on Iran. But in the afternoon, you get the oil stockpiles inventory data from the API, American Petroleum Institute, which displayed a draw of 4.5 million barrels. And that's the largest draw since March. And so it's only the second draw since, in the past 4 weeks. So, I mean, we got to wait and see if the EIA data, which comes out later this morning, coincides with it. It might not. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, as we continue to watch these sort of headlines on tariff and the Fed, there's still a lot of details that you're keeping track of, as we can hear from your opening, including some important economic data today and some other news headlines coming out of different sectors and segments. We'll get to all of that in just a moment, but we do want to start with earnings action, which is really heating up, as you named a few major companies that have released, are releasing. So let's start there. Bill, give us a rundown of what's going on in terms of earnings action.
You want to start off with Tesla. They delivered a big miss, and they did it on lower revenue. The stock is trading higher by 7% this morning. I mean, it's really shocking. Musk is really he was positive on the call. PKG, Packaging Corp of America, Paul Kilo Grace, they beat by 10 cents. They did it on higher revenue. Stocks trading lower by 4.5% this morning. General Dynamics, ticker GD, they beat by 20 cents on higher revenue. That stock's trading off by 0.3% this morning. So a little concern there. Then you have things like upcoming Texas Instruments, ticker TXN. Their earnings are coming out after the bell today. Their EPS is $1.06. Expected move is 7.58%. ServiceNow, ticker NOW. Nancy Oscar William, their EPS is $3.79. Expected move is 9.10%. And IBM, International Business Machine, scheduled to release this afternoon. EPS $1.42. Expected move 7.91% when they release. So that's what I have for you in terms of earnings action, Emily.
Tracking that all using your NewsWare. You're also keeping track of the day's economic reports, at least one major one that you gave us a preview of in your opening, and then a bunch of Fed speak, another area that's important to watch, given that we're looking for clues on the overall health of the economy and what their plans are moving forward, regardless of what the president is saying. So let's hear the rundown of what is going on in terms of the day's economic events.
Sure. I mean, listen, the key one to this morning is really the April flash PMI data that's really going to give you early insights into the economic activity since the tariffs went into effect. You're also going to get new home sales. The PMI comes out at 9:45 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. we get the new home sales. The new home sales are likely to come in around 680K. And then, 10:30, you get the EIA oil stockpile reports. And then 2 p.m., you get the Beigh book. Those are all, the Beigh book could be interesting too. In terms of Fed speak today, 9 a.m., Chicago Fed Bank President Austin Goolsbee. 9:35 a.m., we're going to hear from Fed Governor Christopher Waller. At 2:35 p.m., we're going to hear from St. Louis Fed Bank President Alberto Muslam. And then at 6:30 p.m. this evening, we're going to hear from Cleveland Fed Bank President Beth Hammack. So we got a lot of good Fed speak going on today. You want to really pay attention to it, but it should be a good day for the markets today, Emily.
And, as we're sort of tracking all of this information and a market that is moving significantly higher after yesterday and today, there's some wind in our sails here. We want to make sure to keep track of other types of data and information. You're watching your earnings action, you're watching those economic events and Fed speak, and you're still keeping track of other types of information like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together, like your Dow stocks and your FANG stocks, all using your NewsWare's. So, Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 25 higher, 5 lower. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. I'm seeing big gains across the board in those names. I got to point out Apple. EU regulators hit Apple with a $570 million fine and ordered it to remove technical and commercial restrictions on app developers. They're supposed to inform users on cheaper ways of obtaining apps outside of their own app store. A little strict, and then coming before the talk started. I mean, it's a little strange to see that, but EU regulators hit Apple with a $570 million fine. Then you got Google. I mean, they might be under pressure to sell their Chrome. OpenAI is apparently interested in buying the Google's Chrome browser. Let's throw that out there, and they have the money to do it. Meta Platforms, EU regulators hit Meta with more than a €200 million fine over its pay or consent system, which violates the rules on personal data for Facebook and Instagram. Meta feels that they're just being punished for being a successful company, but they probably did violate some rules. Meta's not will do those things and pay the fine because it's cheaper to pay the fine and get the business. Tesla, listen, their earnings were bad. Profits fell 71%. The only positive is that Musk indicated that he would be devoting significantly less time to his cost-cutting work at the White House starting next month. Damage might be done. His reputation has been tarnished. He can't sell the robots that he's looking to do because he can't get the right materials from China, he's saying. He's got tariff issues going on. I don't see a real turnaround here, but you got Tesla trading higher by 7%. Whew, it's a tough one to go long on, I would have to say. Then we're moving on, and we're moving on to Dow Jones 30 stocks and Boeing. Boeing recovered. Their recovery appears underway. They reported 221 new orders in Q1, and deliveries are increasing. Remember, they have a backlog of 5,600 airplanes, which equates to about $545 billion worth of planes. We're talking Disney. Their chairman Gorman came out and said that the successor to Bob Iger, that process is going very well. Good news on Disney, ticker DIS. You look at the stock, it's up 2.39% this morning. What else do we have? Guidance news, PKG. They see Q2 EPS coming in at $2.41. Street estimate is $2.65. That's why the stock's getting hit. Philip Morris, ticker PM, Paul Michael. They see Q2 adjusted EPS coming in $1.80 to $1.85. Street estimates $1.80. Nice one. Boston Scientific, BSX, Boy Sam X-Ray. They raised their full year 2025 EPS view to $2.87 to $2.94. Street estimate had it at $2.86. That's a big uptick. BSX, Boy Sam X-Ray. In terms of shareholder meetings going on today, Domino's Pizza, ticker DPZ, David Paul Zebra, they're having a shareholders meeting today at 10:30 a.m. And Levi Strauss, ticker LEVI, Larry Edward, Victor India, they're having a shareholders meeting today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Catalyst calls, Gilead Activewear, ticker GIL, Grace India Larry, Citibank opened up a 30-day positive catalyst watch on the stock. A little cautious on that. But that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional NewsWire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us today?
I'm going to stick with Boeing. I mean, listen, I know the stock's already up 5% this morning, but the earnings were actually really positive. And it's really showing a turnaround. And the stock has been unusually weak. I look at yesterday's call volume, 62,000 versus 48,000. That's positive. I look at the open interest, 556K versus 500K. That's positive. Major brokers still like the stock. They're not, they know this is a turnaround story. So yeah, but I gotta get into this stock at 168.50 to 169.20, somewhere around there. Stock's trading 170.92 right now, so I'm hoping for a little weakness, which may or may not happen. But I do like Boeing, ticker BA, Boy Apple, for additional gains today, Emily.
Boeing it is today. We'll watch that along with you, looking for that specific entry price, thinking that there might be a little bit of a pullback and then some more gains there. We'll follow that. And coming up, we'll do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day before we sign off. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, let's see. What do we got here going on? Trump is targeting offshore wind. Okay. Many projects are at risk. Tesla, Elon Musk is recommitting to Tesla, but will that save the stock? It's not so simple. Yeah, that's what I was saying. NVAX, Nancy Victor Apple X-ray, Norvax says it received formal PMC request from the FDA related to their COVID vaccine. Intel, ticker INTC, is said to be slashing their workforce. Earnings are coming out, I think, tomorrow afternoon. Boeing says 787 program continues to stabilize production at 5 months in Q1. They're producing 38 planes this a month this year so far, but I think that number will still go a little higher. BHC, Boy Henry Charlie, Carl Icahn and his affiliates have built a 34% position in the company. A coalition of U.S. auto industry groups on Tuesday urged President Trump not to impose 25% tariffs on imported auto parts, as they warned it's going to hurt vehicle sales and raise prices. Yeah, Intel's plans to slash more than 20% of its workforce. Snap, Florida sued Snap because of their photo sharing, and they're accusing of illegal employing features that addict children and opening accounts for children under the age of 13. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Wednesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was EQT Corp. They did release earnings after the bell, as you anticipated yesterday. They reported a Q1 EPS of $1.18. That was 20 cents better than analyst estimates of 98 cents. Revenue for the quarter came in at $2.24 billion, and this was ahead of consensus estimates of $2.19 billion. They also announced an accretive acquisition of certain assets from Olympus Energy. Really solid report there. I did see at least one price target bump on the stock this morning. Bill, you were trading this one ahead of earnings. It is still up again this morning. How did your call work out?
Very good. Very well. I mean, listen, stock opened up at $48.14. Not a bad price, but then it just ran. It ran all the way to $49.15, during the day. Now it closed, at $48.57. And you look at it today, it's trading over $50. It's $50 on the bid, $50.44 on the offer. So, anyway you look at it, this is a big mover. This is a, 4% mover. So EQT was a good pick. Was a winner yesterday, Emily.
Solid win there, Bill, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Boeing pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.